Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight I'm talking about why I'm in Thailand, how I got here, and why after 8 to 10 years of what I would call successful business ownership, I took a job. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the story to get here, what it all means, and how this is going to play out for my future in the next 5 to 10 years. So the first thing is, let me start telling you a little about my journey, how I got into this kind of world traveler state, and how I kind of ended up in Thailand. So I've done a quick recap of this in a couple videos ago in the first kind of life update video, but I just want to talk about this a little bit more, this whole dream of wanting to travel. And this has always been something that I've been excited about. I went on my first international trip when I was in my teens, late teens. I think I was like 17, 18. I went on a trip to El Salvador. Had an amazing time, an amazing experience. And if you're watching this and you've never been overseas, you have to travel. You have to go. You just have to do it. There's nothing like going overseas and experiencing a different culture, seeing a different world. Looking at it online, looking at it through the media is just, it's watered down. It's not the same thing. You have to get overseas and travel. I tell everyone who's never traveled, who's thinking about it, like, absolutely do it. Even if you're not going to travel to the extent that I do, like, you should at least just go on a trip and not a cruise. Like, go to a country and spend time with the locals and start learning little bits of the language, try the food, learn the culture. Like, these things will change your life, and seeing how other people live will change your life. And especially when you go on a trip where you're supposed to be giving back to the community, like I did when I was in my teens. We went to El Salvador, and I remember coming back from that trip, seeing people that were completely happy with their life. They were laughing, they were joyful, they were content with what they had, who literally had nothing. They had dirt floors, they had wood and debris built houses on the side of roads, and they had barely any food to eat, but they were so happy and joyful. And I remember, as part of what we were doing, we were giving out these little pamphlets to the kids. They were so appreciative of these little pamphlets that they would bring us literally anything. They would give us a hair tie in exchange, rocks, anything that they had that they could give to us, they would give in exchange to say thank you. And I remember that experience of seeing how grateful that these kids were receiving these little, 2-3 page pamphlets. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, if we did this back in the States, after this, little presentation that we did, all of these pamphlets would be in the trash, it'd be on the ground, littered everywhere. Like, it would just be wasted. That was such a powerful moment in my life. It really opened my eyes up to how different the rest of the world is. And I remember coming back to the States and just hearing people complain about little things in their life. We say first world problems. And look, all of our lives are relative, right? They're relative to our situations, our experiences, and our perspectives, and our reality around us. But when you go and you're around people that have so much less, and yet they have so much more as far as joy out of life, that really changes your perspective. It changes your thinking. And I remember just being really kind of disgusted at hearing what people were complaining about, small little things, when there's literally people that had dirt floors. They were sleeping on newspapers. And we're not just talking about like standard homeless. Like, this was just general population. And so obviously that is an extreme example. I do not live really in areas like that. As I travel, I do visit and travel to places where there is a lot of that low poverty life, but I don't typically live in those places. But you still are surrounded by people that have so much less, even just opportunities, even chances to grow and elevate their lives, and they're still completely joyful. They just make the best out of their lives, and they do try to take advantage of opportunities when they come, but really it's just about enjoying life. And so obviously there's pros and cons to both ways of life, and there is a middle route, and that's currently what I'm figuring out for myself is, hey, what is this middle route of life where I can really thoroughly enjoy my life, but at the same time, I can accomplish some goals, and, I can still be of value to the world, and, I can still be challenged and continue to get better as a person, as a business owner, as a leader, as a coach, as all of those things. and really just live a fulfilled life. So what led me to start traveling was this desire to want to be out in the world, to experience different parts of the world, to see different cultures. And honestly, it was just the fact that, as I grew up in the States, I started, getting involved in business and being more involved in the world and, just normal life, going and having a corporate job and starting a business and, working with small business owners who, let's be honest, sometimes are the worst people to work with because they are just so involved with their own business and with themselves. And look, I get it. I'm a small business owner. You have to make hard decisions sometimes, but it's one of those things where obviously the bigger the business, the more stable they are, the more they can invest, and the more enjoyable experience it is. I still have a heart for small business owners. I still want to help small business owners, but I'm just tired of getting beaten up by them. And, there was this 10-year process when I went into business ownership and I really just learned, right? I learned about the world. I learned about how the world works, how business works, how money works. I learned so many different lessons, as one should, as you're doing more in life and you're trying to accomplish more and you're learning and you're growing. I just began to realize that, as much opportunity as there is in the US, there is just as much oppression. And look, I don't want to sound ungrateful. I don't want to sound unappreciative. I don't want to sound like, first world problems, complaining type of thing. But, look, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to business, the US just is not number one anymore. It's not the best. It's not even probably in the top 10, 20, or 30. Yes, there's still a lot of opportunity in the US. And yes, I am thankful that I was born in the US and have the opportunities that I have. But at the same time, we are not just born to take what we're given and, just go along with the flow. In my opinion, I think that we have been created to challenge ourselves and to really be able to grow and learn and accomplish a lot of things. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all going to be super wealthy, successful business owners. That doesn't mean we're all going to be superstars or professional athletes, but we can accomplish a lot of success in our own lives. And I just didn't like the environment that I was in for a lot of reasons. And I really don't want to go into too many specifics about that. Again, you guys can connect with me. I'm in a couple of private networking groups. You can join those or we can just chat. But, when it just comes down to the economy and the government, and I mean, you guys are seeing it now, right? Like this was just happening over, the past 5 to 10 years ago, or not just happening, but it was really just starting to come to light, the depth of the manipulation and the lies and everything like that was going on in the US. And so without getting into too much of that and getting flagged by the YouTubes, I just was not happy. And it wasn't even just all of that too, is my own personal life. I was in a relationship where I wasn't fulfilled. I was working with clients, was in a business where I couldn't deliver the value that I wanted to deliver to them. I felt like I could do more, but I couldn't do it in the format I was doing, and the clients that I had weren't really receptive to it. I was just in a life where I was unhappy. And look, I believe that we all have the option and the opportunity, especially if we're born from a country like the United States or a majorly developed country where we have freedoms, we have liberties, and honestly, we have finances to where we can set our lives up. And we have access and opportunity, first and foremost, where we can, use that to leverage our lives and increase the, quality of our lives. So I believe we have those things and we should utilize those to create the life that we want to live. And so I was really unhappy with my life. I had this experience where I had gone overseas, I had traveled. And so I decided that I was going to go start traveling again. And I wanted to get out and experience the world. Now, I didn't think I was going to leave the US and never come back. I actually remember for the first trip I went to in such a long time, I actually had to renew my passport in order to go. That's how long it had been since I traveled. But I actually went down to Colombia and I had a phenomenal time in Colombia. And I remember thinking, because I had created a business that I didn't have to be in the States for. I had some other personal obligations in the States where I had to go back for. But I remember being in Colombia and I remember being a couple days before I had to return, just thinking like, man, I really don't have to go back and I really don't want to. Like, that was it. And I remember thinking about the things in my life that were pulling me back to being in the States and the things that were going to keep me there and keep me from, being where I wanted to be, which in that moment was in Colombia. I was having such an amazing time. I was just feeling so good about myself and about my work, my life. This idea of being able to work remote and work from wherever you are and travel and see different locations, it really is a lifestyle from what I've learned. And many people do think that they want that, but then they try it and they don't really, but it really works for me. I actually really love it. And so I was having the time of my life, and there was no reason really that I had to go back as far as business, because I had my remote team set up, so they were working regardless of where I was. My clients, we had our systems and processes in place to manage them and to get new clients, and so that was happening regardless of where I was. I just didn't have to be anywhere specific, and it was an amazing feeling. It was absolutely phenomenal. At that moment, something just clicked in me and said, hey, look, I want to pursue this life where I'm going to travel. I can't tell you exactly when it was when I decided I didn't want to go back to the States, but it was sometime when I went to the Philippines and I was there, and I remember just living there and saying, hey, this is such an amazing life. Why would I ever go back to the US? Everything is less expensive. I'm having better friendships and relationships. People are kinder and nicer. There's more business opportunities. I mean, everything was just absolutely better. I had no complaints. Like, yeah, there were some inconveniences based on where I chose to live and, getting used to culture and language differences. But in reality, there was no sacrifice of quality of life. There's nothing that I was missing out on in my life. I still had my gym. And look, guys, for the most part, besides the travel, I do live a pretty basic life. I like to work out, I like to eat well, I like to travel, and I like to live, moderately comfortable, as you guys can see from my condo here, and as you can see from some of the other places I've stayed in my other content. But I like to be comfortable, but I also like to have my gym, my food, and that's really it. That's all that matters. And I like to have access to people and business opportunities. That's really what I'm focused on in my life. And yeah, there's some little things that go along with that, but there's no sacrifice. There was none. Like, it literally made no sense to why I would ever go back to the States. I just didn't see the need. And so, I decided that I'm going to start living overseas full time. I'm going to start preparing my life to live overseas full time and diversify my life so that way I don't have to go back to the US. And what that started looking like, I started diving into, obviously YouTube videos. Shout out to like Nomad Capitalist and Wealthy Expat, channels like that. Two channels that I highly recommend you guys follow if you want to live long time overseas life. But I started tuning in channels like that, and I realized, look, I need to make sure that I am not reliant on one passport and one government to allow me the freedom that I want to have in order to be able to travel and live my life and never have to go back to the US. Now, look, I'm not saying that anything specific is going to happen in the future, but the US government is doing some crazy shit, right? And we don't know what they're going to be capable of in the future. And it just is a precaution for me to say, hey, I don't want to just rely on this one passport, right? I want to go ahead and I want to start getting some other passports. Now, as I started diving into this enormous research of how do I start getting a second passport, what does that look like, what's a strategy around getting a second passport, like do you just go somewhere and get it, do you pay for it, like what is the deal here, right? So there was an enormous amount of research that I had to do to start figuring out this process. It's literally taken me probably a year and a half to really get my mind wrapped around how this process actually works. And I haven't been through it, so really I don't even know how it works firsthand, but based on countless experiences I've read, people I've talked to that have multiple passports, really just researching countries, researching passports, researching the options, formulating the best plan, and I'm still finalizing that plan. Ultimately, what this boiled down to was, look, my two favorite regions in the world were South Central America and Southeast Asia. Now, I haven't been to Eastern Europe, I haven't been to Asia, but as far as I can tell so far, these two regions of the world are my favorite. And I've heard amazing things about Eastern Europe. I don't really have a desire to go back to the westernized world, to the developed world. Even in West Europe, I really don't, maybe I will travel there for short times to go, just see those and kind of check off my mental check boxes of, hey, I've been here, I've seen the things, and I've done the things to do. But I don't really have any desire to go be around that environment and those cultures again of the West. I love the fact that I'm living in countries which are cash based instead of electronic currency based. I love the fact that I'm living in countries where there's very little media presence. So there is media in these countries. There is a media in Thailand, but hardly anyone here watches TV. Hardly anyone here watches cable. Honestly, I have cable here attached to the TV, and I was kind of surprised. It's the first time I've been in a place in Southeast Asia where there was automatically cable. I was really shocked and surprised that there was cable, and honestly, we never watch it. If I ever watch anything, I'm watching movies, I'm watching Netflix, stuff like that. But even still, I'm so busy these days, I hardly watch media anymore unless I'm going to the cinema and just watching a movie there. Look, like, I love these two regions of the world, and so I wanted to figure out how I could build a long-term plan, bulletproof plan, in order to be able to stay in these parts of the world and travel in these parts of the world. And the other thing with being a United States citizen is that we do have to pay tax wherever we go. And even if we're not obligated to pay tax, there is the federal earned income exclusion, and this is not tax advice. If you want to look into tax benefits of living abroad, definitely talk to a tax accountant. I'd be happy to refer you to who I use if you want to reach out to me privately. But look, there are tax advantages to living overseas, but at the same time, you still have to report and pay taxes, and that's a huge thing. And so I started developing this plan of like, hey, I want to start getting multiple passports, and I may even want to renounce my U.S. citizenship. I may even want to give that up because there's these tax obligations that come with it, and my life could just be simpler if I, didn't have that obligation, and if I was, this digital nomad. Sorry to use the hot phrase here, but the digital nomad who bounced around from country to country, maybe every 3 months or 6 months, and wasn't a tax resident except for one country which I chose, and didn't have to really worry about taxes too much. And so thinking about that plan, the first step is I need to get some additional passports. Now, I started really formulating a plan and looking at different options in different countries. And the first step for me really is looking at naturalization. Like I said, I've done pretty well for myself over the years, but I don't have 6 figures plus to drop on a passport right now. That's something I'm working back into. But I wanted to look at naturalization. Now, when it comes to naturalization and how to do that, and specifically in Southeast Asia, Thailand is actually really like one of the only countries in Southeast Asia where anyone can really qualify for naturalization and get citizenship and qualify for a passport. And so there are a lot of requirements. It does take a long time. I'm not going to get into those specifics today. I might talk about that in a future video if you guys are interested in what it takes. If you guys want a breakdown of my strategy of finding different passports, again, I've taken a lot of this just from Nomad Capitalist, Wealthy Expat, and other YouTube channels like that. But if you guys want to hear that from me, if you want to hear the specific process of what I found so far to become, a Thai citizen or something like that, DM me, leave comments down below. I'd be happy to do another video on it or just chat with you guys one-on-one if there's just a few of you. If there's overwhelming interest, I'll shoot another video and I'll just detail the process out from what I've learned from my lawyers that I have and just researching the process and actually getting started. But the primary thing that you have to do in Thailand in order to become a citizen and qualify is you have to be paying tax. And so look, obviously I'm wanting to get away from the US to stop having to pay tax. But at the same time, I don't necessarily mind paying some tax where I am living, right? It's the fact that, look, I'm not living in the US and I'm still paying tax for what? It's no benefit to me. I'm not getting anything. And so the other thing is, in exchange for paying tax, I can actually qualify for citizenship and I can get a second passport. And so the options for paying taxes, one, you can either start a business, or two, you can get a job. And so I decided to just put myself out there, see what I could get as far as a job, see if I could find something that lined up with my current lifestyle, with my current goals, my current skill sets, and help me work towards this goal of becoming a Thai citizen and having that Thai passport. Now, look, Thai passport is not nearly ranked high or one of the best passports in the world. The reason I want it is because there's an agreement among all of the Southeast Asian countries that if you are a citizen of one of those countries, you get visa-free access to all of the other countries. And so there's some other smaller benefits that come with that. For example, like if you have an Indonesian driver's license, which I do because I live there, I can use that actually in Thailand to drive. I can actually use it in any other Southeast Asian country, while I'm visiting. And so, it just makes life simpler if I'm going to, probably stay here for a good portion of my life. Now, eventually, long term, I do want to be bouncing around different regions of the world. I would love to have a spot in Southeast Asia. I'd love to have a spot in Eastern Europe. I'd love to have a spot in South America, and kind of just bounce around long-term goals, bounce around the different regions of the world, go to my spot in Eastern Europe, travel and do work and do whatever I'm doing while I'm there, and then when I kind of get a little bored or need to change it up, go to somewhere in South America. And so this is my long-term plan. And so Thailand is the first step of that plan. And the first step of getting that Thai passport was starting to pay tax. And the easiest way I could see to get started at the time was just to get a job as long as it fit with my lifestyle, and just start paying taxes. So what I've done is I've actually found a job that allows me to do what I'm doing now for my clients, but I'm doing it for a large international company. They operate in Australia, in New Zealand, in the United Kingdom, South Africa, and we're going to be expanding some different countries. They have multiple brands and products. This is a large company that we're trying to take even larger, and we're trying to develop these product lines, the branding, the marketing. It was just a perfect fit for me. And on top of that, there's an agreement that I have where after a period of time of working in the office, adjusting to the company, learning the role, learning all of the different facets of the company, building my team there, because they really didn't have a strong marketing team. So once I kind of get adjusted into the company, I have my team and I've got everything underway and we can really just focus on implementing, I should be able to have a lot more flexibility with my work. Right now I'm going to the office every day and I'm staying there and I'm managing everything that needs to be managed, and I'm having a lot of meetings, I'm doing a lot of learning. And so that is consuming a lot of my time. But the goal is that once I get done with that phase of the business, that I will be able to then not have to be in the office to manage the team and to manage the department and manage the marketing content and strategies and manage the marketing rollout and development. And then I can be able to return to my life of working remote and travel, and I will have started the process of working towards my Thai citizenship. And that is the main reason why I'm in Thailand, and that is the main reason why I've taken a job, and really the only reason I've taken a job with a company is because I am working on that process. Now, the cool thing about this is what this is actually going to allow me to do is once I'm able to go remote, then I'll actually be able to start working on some other passport opportunities at the same time. And so the goal for me, which is very overzealous, which is typical for me and what I try to do, is that I'm going to be trying to work on naturalizing for multiple passports at one time, or saving up money from my business and now this job that I have, and using that to fund additional passports in the next couple of years. And so this is a long-term play, guys. The Thai passport, you have to pay taxes for 5 years if you're not married. And, the process to become a Thai citizen can take another 3 to 4 years sometimes. And so, this is a 10-year journey, 9-10-year journey. To naturalize in some other countries, it only takes, maybe 3 years at the shortest, but there's some limitations there as well. And so look, I am kind of settling in here to Thailand. I do like to spend a good amount of time in a country before I move on. But, at the same time, I have to be focused on my goals, and I really want to get this process done with as soon as possible because it is such a long process. So if my goal is to get 3 or 4 passports in the next, 10 to 12 years, that's going to put me in my early 40s to mid 40s, and I want to be, at that point, be able to focus on being able to live where I want to live, continue to operate my business. If everything works out with this job and we're able to do remote and continue to do that, that would be fantastic as well. And so that's why I ended up here in Thailand. And so now, because I have this process started in Thailand, I'm looking towards the next passport that I want to get. And I'm actually debating between naturalizing for Serbia, staying here in Thailand a little bit longer, and saving up money and possibly investing in the Antigua and Barbuda passports. I'm comparing access and benefits and stuff right now for those. And look, here's the reality, right? The world is changing very quickly. The big governments are pressuring the smaller governments to restrict these programs and to make them more expensive and to make them harder to get and, enter into. And so going to Serbia and working on a naturalization process, really even starting in Thailand and trying to work towards, this 5-year time frame. In 5 years, it could be completely different, right? They could get rid of the program completely. It could be completely different. It could have completely different regulations that you have to qualify by. Same thing with Serbia. And so really, I'm looking at this twofold. What are the best options, the quickest options for me to naturalize by when it comes to having the access I want? But also, what are the least expensive, but best quality options that I have in order to just invest money in a passport? And look, here's the thing. Because of my lifestyle, because I have a business and I have this job, I am able to save quite a bit of money every month and put this towards my goals of getting a passport. I keep my living expenses lower. I do live, comfortably, but I keep my living expenses lower. I'm saving a lot of money to put towards these goals. I'm glad you're enjoying the video. If you need help with hiring, training, or managing your VAs, make sure you click the link in the description below to check out our free VA hiring workshop. If you need one-on-one help with me, click the link to schedule an appointment to see how I can help. And this goes back towards that initial thing I was saying in the beginning of this video where, we have the ability to take the opportunities that we have in life and turn them into the ideal life that we want. And so yeah, if you guys are in a place where maybe your business isn't giving you the lifestyle that you want, if you don't have the quality of life that you want in your personal life, you can absolutely create that. And it does take some work to figure that out. It takes some trial and error. It took me a long time to figure out that this was the lifestyle I want. And I had to choose this lifestyle. Like I said, when I first left the United States, I didn't necessarily think that I would never be back. I really wasn't happy in the US. I didn't want to go back for a long period of time. My original plan, honestly, was to come to Southeast Asia for 6 months, maybe a year, travel around, see all the different places, and then go back to South America because I absolutely loved Colombia and South America, and I had so much more to explore there. But then I came to the Philippines, life hit me. I really was struggling mentally. I wasn't working out, wasn't eating well. I had a long period of time where I just had to heal mentally and do a lot of work. And honestly, it's been a long 2 years of trying to close down my old life. Once I decided that I didn't want to go back to the US, I had to close everything down and I had to start looking at how to rebuild this new life when things are constantly changing. And if you guys want me to do a video on that 2-year transition of everything I had to do to really close down my old life and start a new life overseas and how I structured a new business in Dubai, if I would recommend that, or where I'd recommend to start a business at this point. Not that I'm a expert or professional at this, but I have done a lot of research. But if you guys want to know that process and at least what I went through, let me know in the comments below or shoot me a DM on social. I'd be happy to do a video on that and kind of just start highlighting some different aspects of, look, how do you transition a business from the United States to overseas? How do you transition a life from the United States to overseas or your home country to a different country? There's so many different aspects, and it was really, really tedious. But it's going to create the life that I want, and it's going to create a life of simplicity. It's going to create a life of ultimate freedom. And really, I'm going to be about as free as you can get. We're always going to be reliant, especially with something like a passport, on one government or another. But the idea here at this point is you really can't be invisible anymore, but you can be diversified. And so you don't have to rely on one country. You don't have to rely on one customer, and you don't have to rely on one person rooting for you in your life. You can build communities of people. You can build a business with lots of raving clients, and you can build a life where you have multiple passports, multiple bank accounts, you have multiple friends that are doing business, worldwide networks, and it truly is an amazing thing. And so, whatever you're trying to accomplish with your business, I want to help you optimize your business to give you the lifestyle you want. So maybe you don't want to be crazy like me and traveling and bouncing around to different countries, but maybe you want to, spend more time with your family and just start there. Maybe you want to give back to your community. Maybe you just want to go to your kids' soccer games or football games or whatever it is. You want to go to their after school activities. Maybe there's just some really simple things that you want to do in your life, and that's how it started for me. I just decided that I wanted to be in a different location. I wanted to try out this working from anywhere thing, see how it suited me. And really, it just suited my personality and my needs and my wants and my desires so much. And so it worked out for me. And so start small. Start with the things that are most important to you. Focus on those and start tailoring your life. Start making decisions, cutting things out. Start putting systems and people in place in order to take things off of you, so that way you can start focusing on the things that you really want and you can build the life of your dreams. Hey guys, that's the end of the video. Thanks for tuning in. If you got some value out of that, make sure you go ahead and let me know by leaving a like. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, and comments down in the comments section. And of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos. We release 3 videos a week, one on sales, one on marketing, and one on VAs. And of course, if you want to check out some of our services or products, check out the links in the description, as well as you can find information on one-on-one coaching and consulting with me, where we can dive into the specific strategies and solutions that you need in order to take your business from 6 figures to 7 figures, or low 7 figures to more 7 figures.